You sure you want to go live? We are live. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Every Voice Matters. Today, I have my friend Jen Heatley here with me. She's a leader in the church where I attend here locally, and I'm excited to be able to chat with her today. Before we get started with that, I've been trying to share resources with people for self-education and awareness. So I wanted to share with you one of my favorite books. I always have trouble holding these in front of the camera. It's called Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. It's a children's book. It's a Newbery Medal Award winner. And I read it as a child. It had a big impact on me. And when we have 8 kids. So when my older half of my kids were younger, we read it as a read aloud in homeschool. And on Monday, I'm starting it. We're going to start reading it again now with my younger half of my kids that weren't born yet the last time we read it. But it's about a family in 1933 during the Great Depression in America and the experiences that they go through. It's not exactly autobiographical, but it's based on the author's father's stories of his family. And so it's based on a lot of true stories. But it's a really, really good book, really moving and very powerful. And so I highly recommend that for families as a resource to read and to understand better. So with that, and I'm going to try to drop a link there in the chat while Jen is going to introduce herself to all of us real quick.
All right. Hey, guys. Jen Heatley. I am an educator. I teach second grade, and I've been teaching for 14 years, but I've been in the school system for 21 years now. And so that is really my passion. I've always had a passion for children and for being around them, and I just love them. I am also a mother of 2 and a grandmother of 6. So my husband and I, we've been married. We just celebrated our 30th anniversary in November. So that was really exciting and fun. And we decided this year that we were going to do something new every month. Something that we hadn't tried before. So we're a little bit behind because of COVID kind of squashed our plans.
Right.
But we're still trying to do something every month that we've never tried that we wanted to try. So we're just having fun doing that.
What are some of the things that you've tried out?
Well, let's see. The first month in November, we went to because we have like a timeshare, but we went to a new resort that we had never been to up in the mountains, which we hadn't really ever done before.
Fun.
And then we got a massage, which we had never done. It was like kind of weird, but we were like, okay, well, might as well try it. And then some of the stuff we had planned, we had never been on a cruise before, so we were going to do that. And then we were going to take dance lessons. But all of that kind of got, kicked to the curb when
delayed. Well, you'll have to just do it for another year.
Yeah, that's what we figured. So we're like, okay, we'll just keep it going, trying to keep it fresh. That's a big thing, especially when as an empty nester. It's like, just making sure you keep those connections alive.
Yeah. Do your kids live here local or are they elsewhere?
Well, my son is in the Army, so he's in Missouri right now at Fort Leonard Wood, and then my daughter does live here. So we get to see her and my 2 grandkids with her quite often, and then
they're awesome.
We really love the guys. And then our other grandkids, of course, we don't get to see them quite as much. But we try to go back and forth. They came the year before last, and then it was our turn to go. But then, stuff.
So what kinds of either subjects or grades did you teach, and what's your experience as the educator part?
Okay, well, when we first moved back, because we were in Germany for 5 years at the beginning, and so I didn't really do anything really in education with that. But then when we got here to Seymour Johnson in '95, I had a home daycare, and so it was like a preschool daycare, and I really just did it because my kids were little and I was trying to make some extra cash and I wanted them to have a playmate. So it kind of spiraled from then. So after I stopped the daycare business, I decided to see if I could get a job at the school. And I was like, well, I'll be on their schedule. So I got a job as an instructional assistant at Meadow Lane, the old Meadow Lane. And then, so I did that for 7 years. And then I was like, well, let's see if I can, go back and get my degree. So by then I was 32 and I decided to go back to college or go to college. And so I got my teaching degree at the University of Mount Olive. And then I started teaching in 2007. So, but I mean, I've always been active in that. During that time, I also was, my husband and I started out teaching Sunday school at church. So we did first and second grade. And then, I mean, I just always stayed as a Sunday school teacher all the way up until, till now. I mean, I still am.
You still are. And I'm like the head of it all.
Yeah. I'm the director at the Bridge Goldsboro right now. So, I just have worked my way up and really enjoy that.
Yeah. And it's challenging, like we were just talking about with COVID and everything happening. But I've appreciated the way that you've made an effort to include the children, even in the online services that we've been doing and speaking directly to them, and you've come up and that really touched my heart that, you're even in all this craziness, you're making an effort to minister to the children still.
Right.
In spite of the limitations. But I really appreciated that too. I just want to say thanks.
Well, you're welcome. Yeah. I guess I just go ahead and give you a little experience and a little background just on my personal experience with race and with, and I don't know if I'm the best one. Even I guess I just have my own experiences.
Well, so everybody does. So
So I was born in 1970. That kind of like sets the stage a little bit. And I am one of the first generations with biracial parents. So that was the whole thing. It's a little bit different now, but back in the 70s, beginning of the 70s, it was just, not a common thing to be just accepted.
Right.
So my parents got married in 1969, and that's right at the end of civil rights, when the Civil Rights Act and all of that stuff was still pretty, pretty rough back then. But I think that my experience is a little bit different because my dad was in the military. So I grew up on base. Which, as anyone who is a military brat knows, it's a little bit different. It's almost like a different world, a different space, a protected space. And so I felt like it was a protected space then too. Looking back, I see that I didn't really feel the diversity, like discrimination and that kind of stuff because of the military. We were in Colorado back then when I was probably in my first awareness of like differences, different cultures, different races and stuff. I was 6 years old, and my mom we had a neighbor, and it was a Black lady and a Black family, and we were best friends with them. And then on the other side, we had like some white, neighbors, and we were friends with them. It's like everyone just played together, everybody worked together, everybody just, it was never like an issue. Like we didn't just like sit around talking about it.
Right.
So I think my experience may be a little bit different because of that.
Well, that's been a common theme, though, I've been hearing from, military friends. It's like, it's not as big a deal in the military, as it is in other places. And I think part of it goes back to just like you were saying, we have a kind of a unique community, and we all get jumbled up and moved around. And a lot of people aren't in the place where they would call home.
Right.
But we just kind of stick together. So I don't know. My mind is like spinning, going, maybe we should just make everybody in America move. No. Not a good idea. I know. But.
I mean, kind of is like, I guess there's like there's a built-in hierarchy in the military. It's like everybody kind of answers to somebody,
Right.
Like the airmen have like training that they've got to go through to know, and then they answer to their sergeants, and the sergeants answer to the chiefs, and so it's just a system that everybody follows. And like you said, everybody gets out of their comfort zone, which I think is key to, helping to solve the whole problem of racism.
Yeah. Like, and I think in the military, for the most part, inappropriate behavior is not really tolerated. You know, I mean, there are occasional examples of things, but usually if something does happen, it's dealt with.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think that also helps just to have a fair system where people are looking out for each other, so that when there is that, you know, bad apple in the group that does something, it's handled.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not a military member. My husband was, you know, he was in the service for 24 years. So I've always been around the service, but I've never been, it's different, I think, when you're a spouse than when you're actually the enlisted person, you know, the member, because they get to kind of see the inner workings of it and the whole thing. But from what I've seen, it's just, it's a lot of camaraderie and team building and just, you know, building up mutual respect among everybody. So that's the kind of life I've had, like my whole life pretty much, because my husband he got out in 2012. So, you know.
What branch was your dad in?
My dad was in the Air Force.
Air Force. So, and then but my husband is in the Army.
Yeah, my son's in the Army, right?
Yeah. So my dad was Air Force, and I was Air Force, and my husband's Air Force. But we have a Marine Corps son, so.
So you understand,
yeah. I just think that's interesting. How I mean, we totally, you know, it's great. We love it. But some people ask us, they're like, you know, how do you feel about having a son in the Marine Corps? I'm like, you know, we love him. He's awesome. It doesn't matter.
It's great. Yeah, we kind of joke our son a little bit, but you know, because of just the differences of the Army and the Air Force. It's like, how do you like sleeping in the tent? You know, you could have been in the hotel with the Air Force guys.
Right. Yeah, because my husband flies, so I saw this little meme the other day, and it said, you know, the ground person was calling in the radio like, we need air support, and then the other picture was somebody had, you know, drawn in the sky, you know, with the clouds and paint, and he said, you can do it. So I sent that to my son. I'm like, here's your air support. But you know, it's just fun to kind of joke back and forth like that.
Right, yeah. So I mean, it's good. It's all good. So yeah, I haven't really had a lot of like experience with discrimination. Not like blatant discrimination. Sometimes I think people, like I said, they just get in their comfort zones, people of different races or nationalities, and they're just comfortable with people that they're used to, people that look like them. So there's always going to be that kind of stuff where people are just, I don't know, I've never felt like just pure hatred. It's just more of an indifference, kind of like, oh, well, you don't really fit in our group. So we're not going to go out of our way to include you.
Yeah.
Where they may.
That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. You know, there are definitely examples of, you know, extreme racism and hate. And I mean, we've seen a lot of that on videos and things recently. And that just really disgusts me and breaks my heart. But I think the larger population is, like you said, not necessarily blatant racism, just unaware, just blissfully la-di-da through life and not knowing what's happening right underneath their nose, or not being considerate of other people who have different concerns than they do. So that's kind of what I'm trying to, you know, help facilitate with this, is just to open up about those conversations and make people aware, like open your eyes. And, you know, once you're aware of something, then you see it everywhere. So I'm hoping that's what we can do through having these conversations.
Yeah. So that's my feelings. But as a mother and as a wife, of course, when you become a parent, your eyes get open to a whole nother world.
That's a game changer.
Right. Yeah. Right. You get your, you know, you're protective, and your mama bear comes out, and those kind of things. So dealing with my children, and I think my parents did this with, I didn't know, you know, you protect your kids. You, if something did happen, you know, they would just kind of slough it off and say, those people they're just dumb. They, you know, we never really talked about it. So I can, as a parent, I kind of see how my husband and I kind of did that for our kids too. So, like I said, I worked at Meadow Lane, which anybody that doesn't know, it's it's a school right outside the base. So it's a very diverse population of kids. So that's where my children went for the first, my son was in first grade, up to first grade, and my daughter was in fourth grade. And so I don't think they really felt the difference until we moved to, I got transferred to Rosewood, which is a predominantly white school. a community school where, people, it's a generational thing. Their grandparents, their parents, their mother, their uncle, everybody kind of lives there. And so when you are the only brown child in the class, you stick out. And it's noticeable. And so that kind of showed, kind of opened my eyes a little bit more at that time as a mother, seeing my child feel just uncomfortable in her own skin.
Yeah. Yeah. Did they notice that first, or did someone point it out to them, or they just
noticed it first?
They were just aware of,
Right. Yeah. Because, like I said, at Meadow Lane, there's all nationalities pretty much there. Well, this was, quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
But so I'm sure it's still a lot of military kids go there in and out. And I mean, but at Rosewood, it's not like that. It's just a fact. It's just not like that there. And so my daughter was older. She's older. And so she noticed it first. And like, I had never, she's not really an emotional child, I wouldn't say, but she was very emotional that when I first got transferred there, and she saw her classmates, and she's like, I'm the only brown child in there. Like, it really like opened her eyes and opened mine too, to the differences. And so, she eventually graduated from Rosewood High School, and she was fine. She made lots of friends, and my son too made lots of friends there. But it was just kind of, I don't know, it was just kind of like one of those eye-opening moments for her. And I felt it as her mother about that too. It was like, oh, yeah, I guess that would be kind of a weird feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was yesterday I shared about when my daughter was like, I'm the only white child in the room. And I was like, good. That's, and I've shared some with my experience at, being at the academy. I was often the only woman in the room. And it's true, when you're the only one, like, you notice right away.
Yeah.
But when somebody else is the only one, I don't think about it, because it doesn't affect me that, oh, they're the only whatever, fill in the blank. But when you're the one that's the only one, it's, even to a child, like you said, it's obvious.
Yeah, it's obvious. And I mean, I think it's important for parents, for us to have those honest, conversations at that time. And to try to be, just as unbiased, as whatever as possible in that moment. And it's just like, yes, you are that child, but how does that make you feel? Why do you feel that way?
Yeah.
And then, kind of help them process what they're feeling and why they're feeling that way, and just, help them boost up their confidence and be proud about who they are. So,
and go ahead.
Oh, yeah, that's just one experience that I had, that I had there.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess my hope and dream is that we would get to a place where we're so intermingling in our daily lives that there's not a thing where, oh, this person is the only fill in the blank, but that we do our lives together all the time. And it's not a big deal that we look different, or came from a different place, or have a different background, or live in a different neighborhood, or whatever it is.
Right.
Where we're not so homogenous in our little groups,
Right.
Because as a nation, we're not homogenous. We just need to mix our groups together.
Right. Yeah.
Like Play-Doh. Just thinking with my kids, they never just keep the Play-Doh separate. It always becomes a thing. That's what we need to do.
Yeah. I mean, it really just is going to start with some open, honest conversations. I really think it's going to start at home. I'm a big believer in the family, and the family unit is just really, a powerful thing, and we've got to get back to the family.
Yeah.
But also, I think, and I mean, this, like I said, these are just my recollections and experiences and stuff, but and you can answer this. I feel like sometimes, like, white people are afraid to ask questions, or they're afraid to say anything, because they don't want to offend, they don't want to, but I feel like at some point, in order for us to get, further in our journey, that there's going to have to be some open conversations where we just say, let's put our feelings like over here for just a second, and let's just talk about it.
Right. Exactly.
Just, because there could be some Black people who have questions about white people, are like, why this or what, and they're just like, they don't want to offend you, but it's just like, it's just a culture thing. It's like, why do you guys do this? And why do you do that? Or whatever, but nobody wants to bring
it up. Yeah. And I have, had some, or I've seen, other people, post of it. It's kind of like, I want to say something, but I'm afraid I'm going to say it wrong. Yeah. And I'm afraid I'm going to cause more pain instead of communicating what's in my heart of, I support you. And, I want to help be a part of the change. And I think there are a lot of people who are kind of timid about speaking up. And so, that's part of why I want to do this, just to have this open dialogue about things. When I was in high school, I was on the dance team, and our school was very mixed, but our dance team was very white. And so there was one Black girl on our team, and she was my good buddy. We were best friends. People called us salt and pepper, but we just had a real open relationship, where she just taught me a lot of just basic stuff that I wouldn't have known otherwise. We were in Texas, and we had dance camp in the summer outside in the heat, and it was like for 3 or 5 days or something. Her mom came to pick her up, and she's like, wow, you're dark. Didn't you wear your sunscreen? Didn't you? And I was like, didn't your mama know that you were dark when you came? And she's like, Black people tan too. And I'm like, what? Like, I didn't, I mean, that's just a silly thing, but it's like, for some reason I had it in my head that she's like, my skin works just like your skin. Like, you're right. That makes sense scientifically, but I just, I was a dumb high school kid and hadn't thought about it. But there were a lot of little things like that where she would just, tell me how it really was. And it wasn't, there were no like weird feelings between, we're just friends, just here in life. She's going, this is the way I do it. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. So I think having those kind of conversations is helpful too.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Our teens and our like younger groups, I think they are already doing that a lot. Like they are ahead of some of the adults in their views. Like they don't understand why there's a division. They're like, what's the big deal? So what? Like their grandparents might feel a certain way about it. And then they ask them and they're like, what's the big deal? Like the kids are the ones that are going to really make, the difference. So I'm hoping by the time, your Benjamin and my Matthew are adult, like this is going to be, healed. Maybe not all the way, but like, it's going to be a big difference. So
I hope so too. And I've shared on here a little bit earlier this week too, but we moved here from St. Louis and everywhere we went was just very mixed. And coming here, I was like, initially I was like, whoa, everything seems a lot more segregated. And people are like, well, you've moved back to the South. And I'm like, well, but it shouldn't be this way. And searching for a church, we came from a church that was, had all different colors of people. And I had a hard time finding a church that wasn't either all Black or all white. And that was, I want to go to a place of worship where the demographics match the community I'm in. And I just really had a hard time finding that. And I've never said this to you before, but your family is a part of the reason why we went to that church. Why we chose that church is because I'm like, well, there's at least one family here. Maybe more will join us. And then, some more have. But I just, I missed that integration that we had where we came from. And so anyway.
That's funny you said that because we trying to find the same kind of church too, we like the mix and intermix of churches and of people and all of that. So and overseas we were at Ramstein. That's how it was over there. You go to the service and it was just everybody was just kind of all in there. I don't know if it's because it was like limited, like but it was just nice, So it was kind of just it was hard. But no, you were mentioning earlier about how you and your high school friend were having like just intimate conversations, and it was like nobody's feelings were hurt. One that reminded me of experience that I've had to get over, just in the way people ask me questions, the way they start a conversation kind of sets the tone for my reaction. And I've had to, as I've gotten older, I've had to really, do some self-reflection and think about why they're asking that. So one of the questions that I thought about that people used to ask me, especially in the 80s, 90s, probably not so much now, But they would always say, "What are you?" They'd ask me that. "What are you?"
Human.
Right. That's an offensive question, the way they're saying it. And so, I would get upset, or I would be like, like you said, like, human, like, what are you? Like, I'm a woman, like, what? I knew what they were trying to ask me, but I was purposely not answering them the way they wanted me to. And so, as I got a little bit older, I would probably say in my 40s, so it wasn't like too long ago, I did some self-reflection. I'm like, why are they asking that question? And so in my hope that, in my looking at people for the good, trying to be positive, I'm thinking that they are trying to start a conversation with me about race, about, like just in general, like they're trying to fit me into a group, but it's hard to. Because, I act a certain way, or I look a certain way, or my features look like this, or my hair, if it's straight, I look, so it's like I am kind of ambiguous in where I can fit in, So I'm just thinking that they wanted to start a conversation, but they just didn't know how to.
So I think a lot of times people are just clumsy about it and don't mean to be hurtful, but
they don't realize how hurtful that is I think, just they need to learn how to say things a little bit better. Like, wow, your hair is so nice, or, like, start out with a compliment. Maybe it's like, like, what, can I ask you about your background? Like, just kind of like that, be a little bit more specific instead of just like blasting out, what are you? It's like,
I don't, I'm not sure if this is, I don't know. I'm just going to be transparent and put this out there, but even as I was thinking about my friends to invite on the show, there are some that I'm like, I'm not even really for sure if they're Black or something else, or, and I don't know if first I thought, well, that's a good thing, because I don't really notice, I don't really care, but or is it a bad thing because I don't know my friend well enough to know her background,
Right.
It's kind of either way, but it's generally just not something that we talk about. We talk about, whatever friends talk about.
Right. But really, that's that. To me, that seems more natural, because I don't know the background of you. Like, you probably have a diverse background. You might have, I don't know, a German dad or something, and like
the little forms where you're supposed to check what you are. I always want to put other European mutt, because that's what I am.
So it's like, I don't know your background, but that doesn't make me like you any more or less.
It doesn't matter.
So I don't see why, like, what my background should matter either.
Right.
Just because it's interesting. Okay, well then just say that. It's like, I'm really interested in that. Like, what can you explain it about it? Like, what are your experiences? But just not to just blatantly come out and say that. So I guess I say all that to say that if someone does ask me that question, now I'm a little bit more open to just saying, are you talking about my background, my ethnicity, or it's like I try to get a clarifying question in there. Just so I can. I don't want them to be like, if I'm the only person of color they've ever talked to and I bite their head off, then I've just represented all people of color as whatever, one kind of way. So
I had to do a lot of soul searching on that myself, on a totally different topic, but similar feelings of when I step out into public with a lot of kids tagging along behind me. I got all kinds of comments and questions from absolute strangers. In the middle of Walmart, they would stop me and ask me all kinds of personal things before they would even ask my name. And I really had to deal with a lot of resentment I'm like, I'm just trying to get my groceries. You just leave me alone. I really don't want to talk about fertility issues right now.
Right.
But I had to do a lot of soul searching and praying on it and go, okay, most people, I think, were not trying. Some definitely were just being mean. Most, I think, were not. It was more just curiosity and an inability to communicate it in a kind way. So, but I actually sat down and I wrote out, okay, these are going to be my answers to the, it's the same 10 questions I always get. In fact, I wrote a blog post on it. I'm like, okay, here's the top 10 questions people ask me about having a big family. So I'm just going to put them all out here so we can get all that out of the way and get on to other stuff. But it's hard when you keep getting those same questions over and over. But I know I've been in a situation where, like, I've had a new acquaintance or something, somebody I don't know super well yet, but they have some sort of, maybe it's an obvious health issue or something. And I want to get to know them and say, hey, what is it you're dealing, but I don't know how to ask it. And I don't want to make it. So I don't say anything.
Yeah.
But my heart is to, hey, let's compassionately connect and share our life stories. But I don't know how to do that either. So I just ignore it. But
that's the problem. We ignore stuff.
Yeah.
Instead of just kind of addressing it or trying to figure out ways to address things. But I mean, it's really tough. I know, trying to deal with all this stuff. And I see that, I don't watch a lot of news, or I used to be hooked on the Weather Channel. I would watch it religiously, like every morning. It was like I would see, and I'm just like, but according to them, it's like something's either always getting ready to fall off the earth, or something coming down, or it was causing me a lot of stress. So I don't watch hardly any news or anything. And actually, when this latest few things, came into the media, I was unaware for like the first maybe 4 days. And wasn't until my daughter, she told me, she was like, oh, they're doing a protest here in Goldsboro. I was like, why? What? Why? She's like, Mom, you know how your older daughter does that. Mom,
where you been?
Right. And I was just like, oh, okay. And so then I still have never went back and watched the videos, because I just know I'm not ready for that. I may never be ready. Because I'm a very visual. I take it in, and I'm just very emotional about stuff like that. So just seeing the picture, the photo was enough. Like I didn't want to see that.
Right. And once you see something, you can't unsee the something.
Right. That messes with your psyche and your I mean, it could do a whole bunch of damage in there. But I have compassion for that. So, and this whole situation has come up, and it's just very disheartening. I thought we were past some of these things, but I see now that we're not yet. But I still just believe it's going to be open and honest conversations where people are allowed to ask questions, and where you try your best to leave your emotions at the door. And if you do start getting emotional or like impact, like sometimes it's time to step away from the conversation and come back with a clear head.
Right.
Because
or just, to own it too, because everybody has like things that kind of trigger them a little. And I think just, doing some soul searching and being aware of, okay, this is a thing that when somebody brings that up, it triggers me emotionally because of my own pain in that area. If we're aware of those different things, I think that can help us to go, okay, so this is an example. When, the football players were taking a knee during the national anthem, my initial reaction was, oh no, don't mess with the flag, because military family and all that. I was like, I was with you up till that point. But then it took me a couple of days to just kind of settle down and go, okay, you know what? They're not attacking the military. They're not trying to, and just go, that's not what this is about, and look at it from their point of view. And I know it was not, but it took me a couple of days to kind of work through that, because it triggered, that military America pride within me. And just having to kind of tease apart those issues and go, these are two separate issues, and they're talking about this issue, and they're not dogging on the military at all.
Right.
But it took some honest soul searching on my part to work through, why am I getting emotional over this way? And to be able to come around and to work through that, and to be able to hear what they were really trying to say instead of what I thought they were saying.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense? I feel
it does. I mean, it really does. It's about, we're going to get information thrown at us from the media, from family, from friends, from acquaintance. We're going to see all this stuff, but at some point you're going to have to just stop and think for yourself. Think for yourself.
And there's unfortunately not a lot of that going on right now.
No, it's like they're just getting, they're getting all emotional, and everybody is like getting up in arms. It's like, but let's really think about this thing. Okay, let's stop for a second and just think about it. Does this make sense? Is it logical? Is it rational? Is what we're doing being helpful to the cause. You know, and like to what our end game is. Like, what do we want our end game to be? Well, we want it to be where everyone, like you said, is just not worried about the color is not the sole identity of a person.
Right.
Like, that's part of them. And we see color. I mean, we see differences. It's how you react to those differences.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's just like, and I hear teachers at my school will say that, oh, I don't see color. And I'm just like,
that's not really the point either, though.
Yes, like you said, and I know where their heart is. I know what they're meaning. I get it. But when you say that, it's kind of like saying, I don't see you. I don't see your experiences. I don't see your culture. I'm just going to act like you're just like me.
Yeah, like it doesn't exist. We had, sensitivity training when I was a lieutenant in the Air Force, and it was on gender at that time. And the comment that I think it was a male teaching the class, I can't remember, but their comment was, you see an officer first, or, you see the rank first and gender second. And I'm like, no, I've always been a woman. I'll always be a woman, but I'm only an officer for a short slice of my life. And I don't want to have to be not a woman to be in the military. I don't want to have to lose a part of my identity and who I am and my femininity just to do this job.
Right.
So I totally hear what you're saying. I get the whole, like, let's be colorblind thing, but we don't want to be blind. We want to have our eyes open and just embrace people as they are and not try to pretend like they're the way we wish they were, or,
Right. Yeah.
That's not exactly saying it right, but you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So we need to like celebrate the differences. Like, yeah, you're a woman, you're an officer, you're a mother, you're all these things. Like, I'm all of that, and it's different from, your husband. It's just, it's just going to be different from a man, a woman, black, white. It's just, everybody's going to have their own individual experiences and their own individual journey that they're on. But we need to have value in those experiences and people's opinions or their opinions, and facts are facts or whatever. But it's just like, we just need to embrace all of that. And just really clarify and ask questions. And if you don't know, just, do it in a respectful way. Because my husband always said, you can ask anybody anything. It's just how you ask them, how you ask them.
Yeah. And I think humility is a big part of that. And my husband was actually just chatting with a friend of ours on the phone this morning. He goes, I hope it's okay to say it this way, but happy Juneteenth. And I'm like, I don't know what is it happy Juneteenth, or do you say something else? And I'm like, I don't really know, but I want to say, hey, I'm celebrating freedom and resiliency with you. Give me the right vocabulary so that I can do it well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm not one to really, I don't really delve into all of those kind of issues and that kind of stuff. My husband and I, we started with pretty much nothing, and we that was fine. We got furniture from the DRMO, and like, we didn't have anything. Like, we had 5 boxes of clothes and like some personal things. We had no dish, but we just were like, go for it. And so the first like 20 years of our marriage, it was just like, our heads were down. We were just working. We were working on our family. We were working, it's like, but now I feel like we're at a place where our kids are grown, and, they're doing good. And, we're blessed. So I told my husband too, I was like, it's time for us to pick our head up and look around and see what kind of impact we can have in the world. It's like, we need to broaden our scope of our family. Because that's kind of, like, that's what we work for. Right. And so I don't know, have you had any men on this?
Not yet. I had one that is lined up, but our schedules haven't connected yet. He's real busy, but I do want to. Because
I feel like
if your husband or somebody I would love to have male guests, but so far the ones I've asked have not. It just hasn't worked out yet. But I am looking for more guests. I actually I have an empty spot for next Friday. So if anybody listening or anybody wants to be on there, because I've reached out to several people, but we're trying to work schedules and stuff. Everybody's busy.
Right. Yeah.
So,
but I mean, the male perspective, Black male perspective in America, I'm sure is much different.
It's different. Yeah. And I would love to hear that too. So obviously more of my friends are female than male, but and I have reached out to suddenly went blank on the word. Is it interracial or mixed? I don't know. Whatever it is. A really nice married couple that happen to have different skin shades.
Right.
And, so they're gonna be on the show when that fits their schedule too. So I'm excited to hear from them.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I like getting different perspectives. So, we have a daughter that's in her late 20s. And so she gives me a lot of insight just about what's going on in that age group, like what they're thinking, just like, it's just a big difference between people our age, her age, and then people like our parents' age. It's like the whole perspective is just so different. And it's just very interesting to me. I enjoy the conversation, and I think the more you talk about it, the easier it will get.
So I think we're making progress with each generation. I'm ready to speed up the progress a little. I have family members, in my family from other generations who, they remember things being segregated and remember separate water fountains and remember being told, oh, don't drink out of that water fountain. It's dirty. That was what the adults in their life told them. And so, and I've heard that story before, and I was like, wow, that's really bummer that people used to be that way. But it only recently occurred to me that, if my people in my family have those memories of those types of things, there's people in other families who remember that same issue from the other side. And have that, it's one thing to look back on your past and go, oh, they told us not to do that because that was dirty. But on the other side of that, some little child is being told that she's dirty, and that just breaks my heart in a whole new way. And I think I hadn't thought of it from that perspective until the last couple of weeks. That's made an, and again, I'm dealing with all these issues now from the heart of a mother, and just, as mothers at the core, we're the same. It's that same mama bear thing. And just, every issue I read about or see, whether it's current events or in the past, I'm just like, that could have been my kid, just as easy. I don't have any choice of the color of my skin either. I mean, it was just where we were put. But it's really, it's just, everything's hitting me in a whole new way, looking at it with the eyes of a mom. And like you were saying, I've kind of had my head down in my own family. Eight kids. I had 14 years of pregnant or nursing or both. So I've just kind of popped out with my head up and gone, whoa, where'd the last 20 years of my life go?
Exactly.
But
I think a lot of people are like that. But speaking about little kids, I was an assistant in the pre-K, the More at 4 program for 3 years, and I did kindergarten for 2 years. So, and this was all at Rosewood, which is a predominantly white school. And so I really saw some honest questions and heard some honest questions from my littlest students. And they, I love them. They love me. We played, we had, group, we did story time, but every so often you could just kind of see their little 4-year-old minds working, trying to figure me out, and we're sitting there reading a book, or I'm spending one-on-one time with one little girl I remember in particular, and we just hung out all the time. We played on the playground together, we just did everything. And then she looked at me and she said, "You're Black." And I was just like, "Yeah, I am." And she was just like, and she saw my husband, he's much darker complexion than me. He said, "And Mr. Heatley's Black?" Yeah. I mean, like in a question, like she was just trying to figure out something.
Sort it all out.
Just in a very innocent, innocent way. And so, I feel like that is when the kids come up with stuff like this. They're just asking clarifying questions. They're not trying to be whatever.
They're not pre-programmed with prejudice.
No. They're just they're just trying to figure out the skin thing. They're like, what's going on here? And I was just like, I said, and you're white. And she was like, oh, but I'm not white. I was like, no, well, and I'm not really black. And I'm kind of like, tan. And then Mr. Heatley's like dark brown and you're like light tannish pink color, And so we just had a very good conversation about that, but it was just like, those are the kind of conversations that you can't not have with your child.
Right.
Or you can't overreact. Oh my gosh.
But if you grow up in a like all white culture, then the children don't have the opportunity to ask those questions. So
right. And so this girl saw the opportunity and she asked me just very, and then another time I was, this was when I was at Carver, which is a predominantly Black school and Hispanic. We have 70% of our kids are either Hispanic or Black. And so we were on the bus together, going on a field trip, and a little Black girl was sitting behind me on this side and on the back, and another Black girl was sitting right next to me, and they were just talking, and one of them said something about, oh, they're Black. Like she wasn't saying it like in a racial whatever. And the other Black girl said, oh, you can't talk about that. That's being racist. This is second grade. So what is that? 7, 8 years old. And I just was kind of like, why, what do you mean? Like I said, I'm trying to be the clarifier. I'm like, why do you think that? You can't say Black or you can't say white because then you're racist. And so I'm thinking in my head, this 7-year-old has already got, someone has fed her that information because she didn't just come up with that. And so I just felt like it was a great opportunity for me to kind of have just a little conversation with her about how that's not racist. It's just a fact. And there's nothing wrong with saying someone is Black or saying someone is white because that's just a fact. I'm not ashamed to be brown, light tan, Black, whatever. I'm sure you're not ashamed to be white. It's like, and why should I be?
Exactly.
Why should I be? I don't need to be ashamed of that, and I'm not. So, I mean, it's just those kind of things, and I wonder what parents are telling their kids when this stuff comes up.
There's that age is a fun age. I can take 2 stories. There were a couple of kindergartners who were comparing notes after the first day of school, and the one little girl said, "My teacher's Black," and the other little girl says, "My teacher's peach." Because they're going after like the colors in the crayon box, I guess. I don't know. But when one of my sons was in kindergarten, they studied, we weren't homeschooling at that time. They studied Martin Luther King Day, and they talked about it, and they talked about civil rights, and they had a little coloring sheet of Martin Luther King Jr. And so they lined them up, in the school hallway, all these pictures. And so I went into the school to see it. And there's one kid in like all the kindergarten that colored Martin Luther King Jr. white. It was my son. And I was like, oh boy, we need to have a talk. And so then not long after that, I took him to get his hair cut. And, the woman cutting his hair was dark skinned, and he's sitting there and I can see his little wheels turning. You know when a kid's thinking about something. And I forget exactly how he opened the conversation, but he made a comment, just a factual comment on the color of her skin. And I was like, oh boy, where is this going? Should I stop him or which? And he's thinking through what he's going to say. And he goes, there was that guy, Martin Luther King Jr. And if he hadn't been here, then you and I couldn't be friends. And I was like, okay, good. That was a good thing to say. He got the right message, But at first I was like, oh, what is about to come out of this boy's mouth?
But I mean, it's just like innocent conversation like that is, that's key to guiding our young ones. And that's why I'm saying family. We've got to get back with the family. We need that strong father figure, the strong mother figure to come together and really guide these children in the right way. So I'm just a firm believer in that. But
it's important to have those kind of conversations and and church too is a great place to come together and to do that. And so I know this is like off topic, but I really appreciate your educator's heart and your just everything that you pour into the children of our church, and just the love that you have for them is just like this aura around you, of you're not just filling a box and doing a job because somebody has to do it, but you can really tell how passionate you are, how you care about Jesus and care about these children, and that just really means a lot to me. And I want to say thank you for that. Thank you for your leadership and for your service in our church.
Right. Yeah. I appreciate you saying that.
Mm-hmm.
It's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I did want to speak about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I guess in the position that I'm at, people, you know, they call me and they talk to me and they ask me specific questions about, you know, just what our position is at church. And like, I'm guessing that's like a thing. When I was growing up, we had, like still some segregation. I remember I'm from Fort Walton Beach, which was right outside of Eglin Air Force Base. I can remember going to the beach, and when we still had black beach and white beach. I can clearly remember that, you know. And so of course we always went to the black beach. But I can remember some of that at church too. Because I did go to some churches off base, and there was a distinct kind of feeling of you don't belong here, which I just think is such a weird thing.
Yeah, that's
at church.
No excuse for that in that environment.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, it just goes to show you that, you know, just because you go to church does not mean that you are, you know, perfect.
Right. Yeah.
If you were perfect, you'd be in heaven. Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So I guess people, you know, like, and we have had more people of color coming into the church that we're at now. Great thing. But there's still some strides that we've got to make. And I think that's true for any church.
Yeah.
Because I've been to the black church before, and I'm not quite accepted there because I don't dress like them, or I don't quite look like them, or you know. And being of mixed race, to me personally, I've seen it's more of a thing for the black community than it is for the white community.
Really? That's been a recurring theme I've been learning about this week. Like almost everybody has mentioned it, of kind of, there's even some, I don't know what the right word is, prejudice or segregation among different shades.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's multiple layers of this.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a true statement from my experience. And I don't know why. I guess what I've kind of figured out is, like, for white people, you could obviously see that I'm not white, so I'm just already I'm in the black category, or I'm in the other or the not white category. So it's just, but once you're in the black community, then it's they can tell something. I mean, and not just the black community, but my mom is Hispanic, but we don't speak Spanish. So that is a whole nother set of issues and, you know, prejudices that people have. Well, you're not really Hispanic because you don't speak Spanish. It's like, how does that, just because I don't speak that language does not mean I'm all of a sudden not part of that community. I'm still
denying your DNA.
Right. I mean, you know, I'm an American is what I am. And I speak English because that's, you know, where I grew up.
Right.
Has nothing to do with that, you know. But yeah, so we've got some ways to go within the church and within, I mean, just our whole society. But
yeah,
I feel like we've made lots of strides even from when I was born. You know, I can tell.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Even the church where I came from, it was really large church, and, you know, like I said, all different kinds of people. But I remember I went to the very first like women's event that they had right after we moved there, and I didn't know anybody. And so it was kind of in this big room, and they had a bunch of round tables where women were sitting down, and, you know, I forget what the thing was, but I checked in at the little table, and then when I walked in, there were just two round you know, I'm an introvert, and so I'm walking into a room where I don't know anybody, and it's like I'm a middle schooler again, going, which lunch table do I sit at? You know, it's that whole awkwardness. Yeah. But right in the front, there were two tables, and no kidding, like on one, it was all white women, and on the other, it was all dark women. And I was just, there was something just instantaneously that kind of rose up in me and said, oh, no, we're not, you know, not in Jesus' house. We're not doing this. And so I didn't know anybody either way. I mean, usually you just go sit with your friends, but I didn't have any. Yeah. So I just walked over and I plunked my butt down at the black woman table. Yeah. But I just introduced myself, and I got a really mixed reaction. I think about half the crowd was like, oh, hey, you know, and just look, and the other half just kind of stared at me expressionless. And so I don't know what they thought about me.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or otherwise. But and I didn't like really assess the crowd, but I kind of have a sense that it was the younger women that were more open and welcoming. I'm not sure, but anyway, long story short, I had a great time and I made good friends that way. But it was just that thing that rose up in me. It kind of took me by surprise because I'm not normally a bold person, and especially in a social environment where I don't know people, I'm gonna kind of hang back against the wall and do whatever is safe. But like before I know it, I was just like marching right over there. I'm like, I'm sitting down at this table.
This is getting ready to happen right here.
Yeah.
So, like, Jesus, take the wheel, right? Like,
right. Yeah, and that's really out of character for me, but I don't know. I just something else took over in that moment. But
I think we've all. Well, I don't know if we've all. I know I've had those experiences. Being the only something, and it being a mixed kid. I'm always the only one. Like there's both now it's kind of popping up, but it's it's just like I've kind of had to, like when my mom would go with me, they're like, "That's your mom?" Like, kind of like you said with your 8 kids, like, yes, these are my 8 kids. I have 8 kids. Or, yes, I get it. But I mean, see, having 8 kids don't bother me. My mom was the oldest of 10, and my dad was the third in line of 8. So I'm used to big families.
Yeah,
I know what it is to have to take a 5-minute shower on a timer. So
yeah,
it's like your time is up. Get out.
Well, I told you I wrote down answers to questions, and some of them were just legitimate, kind one, and others were snarky. It's like when people go, "Oh, are these all your kids?" and turn around and go, "No, where did they all come from? Why are you kids following me?" It's just like really freaky. My favorite is I love to go out somewhere with only half my kids, and somebody will say, "Oh, you've got your hands full," and I'm like, "No, this is only half," and then I just walk off and leave them there going.
But coming from a large family, I kind of understand that, and it just kind of works. I don't know how, because we lived with my grandparents for a while, and it was one bathroom and 3 bedrooms. And I mean, we weren't the richest family, but it was kind of just like wherever you kind of fell, that's where you slept. And it was just like, it's just how it was, Like we shared a dresser. Sometimes me and my aunt, who's like 3 months older than me, like we'd sleep together, or and then my sister came. The 3 of us were in the bed together. It was just kind of like it was normal. It's just what it was,
Yeah, we have multiple sets of triple bunk beds, so each kid actually has their own twin mattress. But often it'll be like one room will be completely empty. Like they'll all go into one room to do whatever and wind up falling asleep there. So.
And then with the big family, it's like you're friends with your brothers and sisters or your cousins, your uncles, or whatever. And so really that frees up time for the adults. I found later, it was just like, because they're playmate. They keep each other, like you have to be there for the, the disciplinary stuff and like the hygiene, cleaning, make sure everyone's taking a bath and that kind of stuff, feeding, and feeding them. But it's like, once you feed them, it's like, get out, go outside and play,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So,
it's fun. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your experiences. Like I said, it's good to see you again. I've missed you with COVID keeping us at church online. I'm looking forward to getting able to see you in person again. Hug ya. And, thank you for everything you do. But so the final question I've been asking everybody is, if you were going to finish the sentence, I have a dream. What would your dream for future in America be?
Oh gosh. Oh, that's a hard one, isn't it? If I had a dream for America, let's see. I just dreamed that everybody would, think for themselves, take time to investigate. I have a dream that people will sit down and have a conversation and look at both sides of the issue, because everybody wants a black and white answer. So I just dream that people will, dream in color and see all the different shades and just embrace, diversity and different cultures and, So I don't know if that's a good answer.
No, that is. I like that dream. I like that dream a lot.
Thank you.
I was texted with a friend this morning, and I'm like, why is it so hard for people just to be kind and not dumb? like, it's not that difficult, people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like what you said about, just God gave us minds to use them and to think through things and to examine all and not everything is simple and cut and dry. There's a lot of nuances and things. But,
and don't believe stuff you see on TV because it's edited for sensationalism.
Yes, exactly. So, but yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. It takes a lot of courage to get up and share your story with a bunch of people, and some of them you don't know. But thank you so much for blessing us with that and for the things that you shared. It means a lot.
No problem. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.